Hello, welcome to the Big Brown Gadfly. Welcome to the show. This is Bobby Lopez, your usual host. This is the show where we give a hard time to people who need to be given a hard time, just like Socrates' horse. And I'm really excited because for this round, we have John Zmirak on as a guest. He's one of the best writers, one of the only people that you can count on for incisive, truthful reporting on what's going on. He is the star columnist at stream.org. Often seen on the Eric Metaxas show. So I'm really happy to have him on board. And I want to just dive into what is going on with this election, because I feel like we're at these cross currents of so much propaganda. And right now, because people have lost faith in all of the mainstream news sources, even the conservative ones, people are at a loss as to how to interpret what's going on. Depending on what you're looking at, it might seem as though all is lost. Joe Biden is going to be the next president, or we're just on the verge of this sea monster called the Kraken coming out from the depths of the Aegean Sea and going to gobble up all of the evil people. So let me just turn it to John real quick. John just came out with a piece that was really excellent on the stream about how what the Democrats are doing to us is psychological warfare on such a scale. It's amazing that basically it's similar to the experiments they did on dogs, where they electrocuted them to make them experience learned helplessness, so they would stop, basically be easy to control. John, first, let me just ask you, what's your take on what's going on? Is this is all lost? Are we just sort of fighting a lost battle here, or is there really truly any hope that we can push back against these election results?
We absolutely should push back, and we should exhaust every legal means we can to try to make sure that this election was not in fact stolen. I don't know the details about Dominion software. I don't know if it can switch hundreds of thousands of votes. I do know the facts that have emerged in the past few days, that it was developed by the Venezuelan government to help Hugo Chavez steal elections, that people at the top rungs of the company are affiliated with George Soros and Nancy Pelosi. And that some other people affiliated with it it's another software company, another software program that was used is the guy who's in charge of former admiral is now part of the Biden transition team. I also know that it was very suspicious that votes stopped being counted in the middle of the night, only in states where Donald Trump was ahead, where Biden needed them to win. These are all things that don't pass the smell test. If you remember, the most vague and poorly sourced accusations of Russian collusion between Donald Trump allegedly and Vladimir Putin, those things got thousands of hours of the FBI's attention, top government lawyers, a special investigator in the form of Robert Mueller, congressional hearings, and they all ended up to absolutely nothing. But now we're supposed to move along, nothing to see here, just because the election of a president might have been rigged, and we have, strong accusations of that. No, shut up. You're injuring national unity. The same people who tore down statues of George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Christopher Columbus, and Frederick Douglass are now accusing us of being unpatriotic because we want recounts and audits of dubious election results in Democrat inner cities where we know they've been stuffing ballots for decades. We know a Chicago vote fraud gave JFK the White House. There is far more precedent for alleging electoral fraud than there is for alleging a president of the United States colluding with a foreign dictator. There was never any evidence of that.
And part of this is, like you said, if I'm going to interpret what you said correctly, I don't know all of this software detail. I'm not a coder. I'm not a programmer. I have no idea about the vote switching. I do know history, and I know who we're dealing with because of my own personal experience. So the first thing is, I know that people lie, and this was an experience that came to me that was so vivid a year ago when I got fired at a Southern Baptist seminary, which now is controlled by people from the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, which we know because of recent reports is basically entangled in all of these connections to Pierre Omidyar and George Soros and Paul Singer. When I got fired, the seminary released a statement that was blatantly false, and they had all of their fact checkers come out. They basically said that I had never been told that I couldn't write about something, and I happened to have the audio recordings with me. So I know people lie. this is very much part of it. And I think people who don't actually believe that officials will lie will be more likely to think that this, doesn't have legs. I also know racial history, which is the part of it that is really striking, because the Democrats always want to hang their hat on racial identity politics. But if you know Black history, you know that election fraud was one of the major ways that the Democratic Party kept Black people down. This is why we have a 14th Amendment. This is why they had an entire amendment, the 15th Amendment, basically guaranteeing suffrage. And then we had more amendments to guarantee women and people over the age of 18. But embedded in all of that is a concern with election integrity. Racial politics in America got so ugly largely because we did not have trustworthy election results. So for them to completely dismiss concerns about elections, to me, is such disrespect to the own racial history that they seem to want to be the inheritors of. And once again, Republicans are out there and they're actually carrying the mantle about election integrity. So I totally get what you're saying. I mean, the statistical improbabilities of this hokey thing about how Joe Biden's going to get all of these hundreds of thousands of votes counted all for him in the middle of the night after everyone's gone to sleep, after they told the poll workers that they were going to stop counting for the day. It doesn't quite pass the smell test. Now, what maybe you can help me out with this part of it, because I just don't know. I don't know how well I know the Republican Party. I was shocked that 4 swing states that are controlled by Republican state legislatures were the places where the Republican leaders issued statements on Friday, basically saying that they would not interfere with this, that they, under no circumstances, would they block the election of electors for a vote count that is disputed and that now has credible accusations of fraud involved. Does this seem to signal to you that it's like it's lost because the Republicans are going to pull the rug out from under us? What do you think?
Well, 2 things. First of all, this is a setback. These governors should be taking action to ensure the integrity of the elections. They should be willing to refuse to certify electors whose provenance is dubious. It's a disgrace that they're doing that. I don't think it means there's no hope, because I think, frankly, the number of votes Trump needs to overcome the current dubious gap between him and Biden is bigger than would be yielded in those states. I think everything hinges on whether or not this Dominion software scandal is real. Okay. I think, having read Andrew McCarthy did a very sober piece at National Review talking about the difference between the vote counts in the various states. And most of the conventional ballot fraud accusations that Trump is making wouldn't make enough difference to switch the election. If this Dominion software thing is real, and in fact, hundreds of thousands of votes. Hold on, I'm getting a call. Hello, I'm doing a podcast. I'll have to call you back.
So John's a really busy guy there. So I'm so thankful that you're giving us your time.
All right, so let me get back. So it hinges on the Dominion software, okay? This is a huge charge that hundreds of thousands of votes were switched using a computer program developed in Venezuela by communist dictators. That's a shocking revelation, but it's no more shocking than the things we found out were really true from the Hunter Biden laptop that the media wouldn't report on, that the Biden family was getting bribes from communist China and that communist China had blackmail information on them. That is stunning. You know what else is stunning? The global lockdown over COVID. Also stunning, the great reset that the World Economic Forum is promising us, where private property and freedom of movement will be compromised or taken away in the name of COVID and of building back better and redoing a reset on the whole of Western freedom and the Western economy. Shocking things are real. Really shocking things are happening. Would you have believed in January 2020 if I had told you that blue state governors would purposely dump virus patients in nursing homes, killing tens of thousands of people for no reason at all, except to avoid using hospital ships that Donald Trump had sent? No, you would have thought I was a crackpot, but that really happened. So my threshold for what is believable has changed in 2020. 2020 is like we're living in the middle of a poorly written apocalyptic novel that somebody typed single-spaced in a double-wide trailer, self-published and sold only at gun shows. It's like we're living through one of those books from like the early 90s that a member of the militia movement would have written. They wouldn't have written something as implausible as 2020 has proven to be. So
yeah, good point.
Here is I actually created an index for this. I call it the Gun Show Apocalyptic Novel Index Coefficient, the Ghani coefficient. It's a playoff on the Ginny coalition, the Ginny coalition. The Ginny index. Is the Dominion software story real? I'm waiting for the evidence. Here is one reason I think there is reason to believe and frankly to hope that it's true. On the one hand, you have Rudolph Giuliani, Sidney Powell, and Linwood, three eminent attorneys, one with a great law enforcement experience who broke the New York Mafia. That's what Giuliani. Sidney Powell has been the lawyer defending General Flynn from the ridiculous trumped-up charges that were used to keep him from uncovering the deep state, to get him out of office at all costs. And frankly, I think in an important way, Donald Trump's presidency ended effectively when he let Flynn resign and he let Jeff Sessions recuse himself. Then it was just an investigation fest for the deep state to make stuff up for 4 long years. But that's another column. None of these three people would be willing to risk their reputation, their legacy, the rest of their careers on wild, unproven charges for which there was no evidence. On the other hand, we have the mainstream media who lie all the time. They distort and they censor all the time. They cut away from the president during news conferences when he's speaking. They cut away now at Fox News from his press secretary. They reported the Russia hoax without evidence. They never apologized for it. They eagerly reported on election night 2016 that the Russians might have hacked our voting machines. There was never any evidence for that. The mainstream media were willing to libel Nicholas Sandmann as a white supremacist and racist for showing up at a pro-life demonstration in a Trump hat and smiling while white. The news media were willing to make Brett Kavanaugh and Mark Judge look like leaders of a teenage rape gang based on no evidence. They've been willing to lie, cheat, and steal over and over again, and they've never faced any consequences. As a result, when CBS or the AP or the New York Times says something, I don't believe it on the face of it. I think, well, what do they have to gain? Cui bono. What is their agenda here? I don't assume that any of the mainstream media are honest and reliable. They face no consequences for doing otherwise. The only member of the media that's gotten in big trouble in 2020 has been Jeffrey Toobin for masturbating during a Zoom meeting with his female colleagues. Okay, that's bad, but it's not as bad as reporting falsehoods to America and certifying them with all the leftover legacy credibility that your predecessors at once great, once honest media institutions built up for you. The New York Times, CBS, the New Yorker have squandered their credibility. Remember the New Yorker's charge that Donald Trump was making fun of America's war dead? There was never any evidence for that. And 24 potential witnesses testified that it didn't happen. They were there at the time when the conversation supposedly took place. The New Yorker never retracted that. And they didn't lose us any subscribers over that. They live inside a membrane of a media hive mind. And the only thing that can get you in trouble in that media hive is if you say something favorable to conservatives, to populists, to pro-lifers, to nationalists, or to the president. Lying has no consequences. So given that the people saying the Dominion story is real would face ruin and humiliation and disgrace, and nobody would stick up for them, nobody would protect them. They would be pariahs, except among the tinfoil hat crowd on the very far right. They would ruin their lives, whereas the people on the other side have absolutely nothing to lose by lying. Again, this is not proof that there is this Dominion software conspiracy, but it's a very strong indicator that we should wait and we should listen and we should carefully read the information that comes out of Linwood, Sidney Powell and Rudolph Giuliani, because if it's real, it's enormous.
Right. Now, what do you do? What do you recommend to people who just feel like, because with the loss of Fox, which I have not trusted Fox in a long time, the only show I watch up there now is Tucker Carlson. I haven't really trusted in Fox for years, but there are many people in our camp who have trusted Fox for years. And for them, this is a huge shift to all of a sudden not have that as a go-to place. A lot of people are going to Newsmax and OANN, but other than that, are you saying just go to those two, or what do people trust? Because we have this proliferation of right-wing news sites that will give you really good scoops. So for instance, there was a really good scoop that came in off of the Capstone report over the weekend, but at the same time, I think a lot of people are just at a complete loss. I mean, are they just going to trust rumors at this point? Or I don't know, what do you advise them to do to get their news? Because I think my view is that right now what's crucial is keeping up the pressure from the people. We have to continue to get conservatives on the streets, because the Republicans are not going to bring justice to this case unless they know that there are consequences to their career if we're out there. And they're not going to feel the consequences from corporations. They're only going to feel it from the masses. And so we need the masses to continue to get good information. Where do you recommend that they get it?
I would say One American News, Newsmax, The Stream, the Christian Post still seems pretty good. The Capstone Report. I would read Jamie Glazoff over at Front Page Mag. He also has a TV. I can't keep track of all the places that keep popping up. The Epoch Times, an excellent newspaper run by, it was created by refugees from communist China, and they specialize in exposing China's role first in the bioweapon attack that COVID really was on America and the West. Remember, China knew about the virus, locked down China, locked down Wuhan province, welded people in their homes, but let 1 million Chinese fly on airplanes to America, to Italy, all over the world, spreading this virus because the Chinese government wanted to make sure that China would not suffer alone the results of coronavirus. And what did Joe Biden do? He said Donald Trump should not stop those flights. It was xenophobic. If Joe Biden had been receiving orders from Beijing telling him what to do, he couldn't have behaved in a more profoundly unpatriotic way than to say we should let 1 million or more Chinese people with the virus potentially fly all over the country. A couple of months later, he was among the people locking us in our homes, closing our churches, forbidding us to have political meetings, breaking the back of the Trump economy to benefit him in the upcoming election. The same Democrats who let Antifa and Black Lives Matter burn down America's cities and wouldn't send the police to protect people, but they did send the police to arrest people like the McCluskeys and Kyle Rittenhouse and Jake Gardner, who defended themselves against these political mobs. We need to realize the Democrats have been using Antifa and Black Lives Matter the way they used to use the Ku Klux Klan, a mob that will commit extrajudicial acts of violence on citizens who disagree with them and not face any legal consequences. But if you try to defend yourself, the police come down on you like a jackboot. There's a theoretical description for this mode of governance. It's called anarcho-tyranny. You use anarchy selectively where it benefits you, where you want to punish your political enemies, the way the Nazis let their brown shirts beat up Jews on Kristallnacht and the police weren't supposed to intervene. That's the anarchy part. The tyranny part is people who try to defend themselves, you punish them, you imprison them, you terrorize them. Anarcho-tyranny, not socialism, anarcho-tyranny is the ideology of the Democratic Party today.
Right. Okay. Now you brought up this whole thing about how there's two parts of it. On the one hand, you don't bring justice to real victims, and then you deny justice or you protect the perpetrators. There's kind of two parts of it. In religious terms, that's what we say, where you call good evil, you will also call evil good. They go together. And that brings me to the religious part of it. I wanted your reaction to what we came out in the news about the gathering in Washington, D.C. Nick Fuentes, who is part of this very vocal alt-right community, got a lot of attention because he led the way with this prayer saying Christ is King, and he got everybody chanting Christ is King. And there's all of these Christians who feel so frustrated because The Southern Baptist leadership has gone full on in with Biden. The Catholic Church, I think, they went astray a long time ago. How do you feel about, now that the denominations are no longer compelling people, these alt-right figures picking up the mantle of the defenders of the Christian faith? What do you say to that?
I can't endorse anything to do with Nick Fuentes because of his really crazy anti-Semitic statements in the past. Frankly, I think we need to find other people to rally behind. This strikes me as smacks of opportunism. There are people we can follow. Sebastian Gorka, Sidney Powell, Rudolph Giuliani, Newt Gingrich, Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, for all his flaws. These people have spoken up about this election fraud. So I don't think we need to throw our lot in with people who have other ideological baggage that we as Christians don't want anything to do with.
Well,
I would recommend caution there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the hard thing right now for me, because I agree with you, it was worrisome to me to see a lot of these groups that are invoking the Christian imagery and invoking Christ, and I know why it's working. All right. Well, I'm sorry I got cut off there. I'm sorry about that. I got cut off. I honestly believe.
Hey, sorry, the software crashed, so my podcast is over. What's up? Yes, it does. Yep. Let's get the meatballs too. That'll be more fun. Let's go get meatballs. Yeah. Mass. Yeah, I can get some green vegetables too. I'll get the potato salad, and I'll do that, and I'll get like wilted spinach or some other green thing that to counterbalance all the starch. Okay. Yeah, I will definitely get that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, sounds good. All right, so.
All right. Well, I'm really sorry that all that happened. It's just been.
Oh wait, hold on a second. Do you?
Wait, I'm sorry about. I'm sorry that all that happened. I mean,
hold on a second. Are you going to try to continue? You want to continue the show?
No. Thank you so much for being on there.
Let's do part 2 tomorrow if you want.
Yeah, we'll do that, and I'll use
Okay.
it. I'll use
All
a different
right,
program.
God
Thanks.
bless. All right. Bye.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, guys, I'm really sorry that that happened. We've had a lot of issues with the internet connectivity on this live studio program. I think the most important thing that I was getting at with John there in the last couple of minutes, that is still a concern of mine, is what the future is going to be for Christians who find themselves in denominations that are playing along with this. We see the Southern Baptists and the Catholics are definitely playing along with the Democratic Party's position. In the Southern Baptist Convention, for instance, we had the